referendum vote, we could remove the supervisory power of the Secretary of Interior. So we could take out secretary approval, but if for some reason we wanted to completely rescind the charter, that would take an act of Congress. What section was that, George? You had that right here, section 10.
Yeah.
This charter shall not be revoked or surrendered except by act of Congress. So in other words, if we wanted to just completely abolish the charter, we'd have to get somebody to write a bill, present it to Congress, and Congress would have to, this great body who can't even get together among itself, would have to get together and vote on the Blackfeet giving up its charter.
Hey, Joe, and I was reading in 1952, the council made an oil deal that violated the, that same section you're talking about, section 5.
Right.
F, and in excess of 10,000, and the Bureau would not approve that. Although that money was going to be allocated for per capita and given to people, the Bureau, because they exceeded that corporate amount,
Yeah.
the Bureau didn't approve.
But today, do they do that? No. Today, they just kind of ignore us and again, turn their back. They too have walked away from their supervisory authority. Again, unless maybe it becomes convenient for them to do it. But like I told you, remember, there's one important part of this charter that is supposed to be that other thing we talk about. Checks and balances and accountability. Accountability. How do you hold people accountable? A lot of times you hold public officials accountable by exposing what they're doing to the rest of the world, right? By information. And what's the biggest thing we do? It's our money. And as we talked, because that's what she's been told, if we tomorrow went over to the treasurer and said, Tainsi, Ms. Birdrather, we want a listing of all the tribal council travel for the last 10 years. She'd look at us and smile and say, you go get an approval from the council first. And the council would say, no, that's confidential information. But here's section 9 of the charter. Let's just talk about the last sentence there. It says, the books of the treasurer shall be audited at the direction of the council or commission of Indian affairs and shall be open to inspection by members of the tribe at all reasonable times. In other words, we as members are supposed to, that's our accountability, to go tell them, I want to see how the money's been spent. I want to see who done what. I want to see this. But the councils over the years have said, no, you don't have, you can only see what we give you to see. Isn't that a controlling information? Isn't that a way you control people? You only give them as much as you want them to know. You don't give them the big picture. You just give them little tiny pieces of that picture so that they can't make the picture themselves. So, again, the charter came about through Article 6, Section 1E of the Constitution, which gave the council the power to manage the business affairs of the tribe or to manage economic affairs and enterprises of the tribe in accordance with the charter. So that's kind of where we ended last time. Let's go on to Article 6, 1F. The council has the power to make assignments of tribal land to members of the tribe in conformity with Article 7 of the Constitution. So Article 7 of the Constitution, which we'll see probably next time, a big part of it has to do with that thing called standard assignments. Now, as we talked, remember in 1935, one of the things the Constitution and Indian Reorganization Act did was it ended allotments. Individual people could no longer get allotted tribal land. But tribal members or leaders, the old people, must have been concerned that people got left out. And so they adopted this provision presented to them called standard assignments, where they said if you don't own any land yourself, you can come in and apply, and we'll basically give you like a permanent home site for your life, and you can even transfer it to your kids if they don't have land, of tribal land. You're not gonna own it outright, you can't sell it, you can't do these other things with it, but it's kind of like yours. You can farm it, you can ranch it, you can take the profit off of it, all those things, standard assignments. And then remember I told you in early 80s, Charlie Conley made a move to abolish standard assignments. And then today there are no more standard assignments, even though, as George points out, that's still in the Constitution. We never rescinded that, or we never threw that out by amendment. It's still there. It was just, again, the power of the council that said, we're not gonna do that. You can't do that no more. Even if you own no land, even if you can find some tribal land that you want, no, we're not doing that no more. But it's still in our Constitution. It says that they can. Now this is, the next section is where this plan of operations comes. Says the council has the power to manage tribal affairs in an acceptable and business-like manner in accordance with the administrative plan called the plan of operations by amendments as necessary, subject to the secretary of approval or by his duly authorized representative. Now here's another sentence that gives us as people some kind of right, or a couple sentences. But again, when this has happened, there's been a big outcry. Oh, you violated my rights. So it goes on to say, all salaries or remuneration shall be paid as set forth in the plan of operation. The tribe shall pay only for services officially authorized in the administrative plan and actually received. The amount shall be a matter of public record. Doesn't that seem to say that everybody's salary is public record? That everybody can see what everybody else makes? One other thing about it, then we'll take a short break and finish up the powers for tonight. That the second to the last sentence says the tribe shall only pay for services officially authorized and actually received. Now to me that seems to say that if you haven't earned that money, you don't get to get it. Now, remember these past few years, these things that also came up called payroll advances? Gee, some people, there's still a list out there. Some people, including council people, got $30,000–$40,000 in payroll advances. Now, if that advance wasn't actually earned, according to this, were they entitled to it? Doesn't look like it. And have we all ever seen a list of all the people that got those payroll advances and how much they got? You got the list, but it's never been published, has it?
Did they pay back?
Pardon?
They never had to pay it back?
Some of them have still not paid the full amounts back. That's right.
And some of them wiped off.
Some of it. What?
Passed the deal too, where you couldn't run for council.
So that was part of the referendum, where you weren't supposed to be able to run for council if you owed the council money. One of the council people at that time left office owing about $40,000 that has never been paid back.
60.
Lots of money. So, again, this is another thing in our Constitution that we've just ignored. And where would we go to get justice there? Go to the court? Well, the court has said, we've got no power over the council. So, once again, folks, that's why we need to change our Constitution.
And you never hear the word unconstitutional. See, I could argue the standard assignment thing. That's unconstitutional in By who?
by the council.
By the council, and so that's not any inaccurate, and it's basically Constitution in the eyes of the beholder.
So George's comment was that in our system, you never hear the word unconstitutional. Now, if you watch the news, CNN, for a couple hours any night, you'll hear that term 3 or 4 times. It's unconstitutional. And he was saying, so gee, in our system, and he used the standard assignments as an example, that they were abolished by the council, not by the people. He said it's come down to, it's the Constitution, is in whatever is in the eyes of the beholder. Whoever's reading it wants it to mean. That's what it means. Because we have no separation of powers. We have no place to go to resolve that.
I just want to say that on my capstone, I did Blackfeet, and we looked at a couple other tribes, and I mentioned it to a few of you. And having gone through it, studying what the other tribes are doing on a national level in Canada, we've got 630 indigenous tribes over there who are also moving ahead and restructuring. And so there's a lot of tribes to look at. But the one thing, when we talk about amendments and we talk about constitutional reform, that is paramount to me, that is more important in terms of moving things ahead, is to do an amendment on removal of council. I believe that, and so depending on the tribe, some tribes can get away with doing the entire constitution and will be voted on. And some tribes have even included enrollment, but that's not the case at Blackfeet. So you have to look at each tribe individually. But I think after talking to the Bush Foundation, who's really active right now with the Dakotas and funding Native Nation building people, the Harvard people and so forth, the trend seems to be doing amendments. And so you ask the question, what is a priority for amending? And I think the one thing, having witnessed, having been on council, having seen it from a member of the tribe, I think one of the first moves should be removal of council. First amendment that comes up when we talk about reform. One of the language in there, failure to honor the referendum, to honor the Constitution should be removed, grounds for removal of that, or failure for abuse of office. And so I think with that, I think it'll come together a lot quicker. So as we're talking about this, there's other amendments that are really key, I guess, to get the council in order and begin to hit those. But what you need, obviously, the petition process doesn't work. They've had the numbers, they presented it, and Joe pointed out it went in the trash. And so it's got to be within the council, in my opinion. So I would say you just need 2 councilmen, one to make a motion and one to make a second, and the timing is absolutely critical. Right before election, when I pushed for the restructuring of our government, I could write a book, literally, what I had to go through, trading votes, supporting the rodeo, supporting this and that. That's the politics of it, and to gain trust of the other 2 councilmen. And we had a unanimous vote on it at that time, and all 9 members voted to support. And so I think as we look ahead, and I know Joe pointed out, within the 4 years, obviously we're looking at a long-term process, but I think we need to look at the next election as a key opportunity to try to implement some amendments, maybe not the whole Constitution. And so I think we need to start, when we write, to start rewriting those critical areas, removal and so forth. Anyway, I just wanted to make that comment.
Oh, Mr. Jarvis has a real light voice.